studio at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Charlotte. This is Adrian Brown with As the Buckle Turns, episode 12, on all of your favorite podcast directories: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and even on YouTube if you prefer that platform. All the links for each will be in the description of this and every podcast you listen to here. Just type the name in for the podcast and all those directories if you can, and as well as my social media handles, so you can follow me wherever you prefer, and use the hashtag ATBT to start a conversation or whenever you decide to share. And also please give some likes, subscribes when you do that. Leave some reviews as well, because as usual, we're all in this together and everything here helps us grow. And please like the Facebook page as well on Facebook. So yeah, haters, going back to the previous episode, I got a little bit of not quite feedback on the actual video when it uploaded to YouTube, but a few people decided to, a couple people I decided to call out, decided to chime in a little bit on the actual show on my Twitter timeline. My mentions can be a little bit convoluted at times with some of the things that I say, but again, like I say, I always welcome debate within reason, as long as you come with reason. But it's the same old typical nonsense. People saying whatever they say is 100% fact and numbers don't matter and things like that. And I was just thinking, just to start this off real quick before I get into some other things that I want to talk about. If numbers really, really don't matter, could you please explain that to your favorite YouTuber or your favorite podcaster, how they don't seem to matter? Because one of the main things you'll hear a lot of the top guys that do this, especially on YouTube or something like that, that's the one thing they tout more than anything. How many listens they've gotten, views, clicks, how many subscribers they got. That's constantly it's in their bios, every single place that you see their podcast posted at. It's even probably in bios of their regular jobs. So, if numbers really don't matter, explain that to them. I honestly don't think that people that dislike what I'm doing here are telling their favorite podcasters that numbers don't matter, because they're part of their numbers. Think about that. And, this will probably pop a few of the people in one of my Google Plus communities, but, I actually thought about, I was like, imagine if you told your boss, if you told your employer that numbers don't matter. If you got a production-based job and you imagine your boss calling you in for an evaluation, and then he's telling you that your production is just not meeting his standards, and you sit there and you just tell him, well, the numbers don't matter. I'm the best employee in this company. And that's a fact. Just because you said, can you imagine what's going to happen to you if you actually say that to your boss, if numbers truly don't matter? Because if you're not producing up to the standards of something, you're not going to get paid what you think you should be paid. And the people aren't going to value you, because no matter what, this is how a society that we are in right now is. There's always going to be a monetary or some type of number attached to us in some way, shape, or form. Whether you like that or you don't. That's just what it is. That's why I always say, when people like to point out, things like wrestling ability and things, I'm like, well, what's your metric to measure that? If you ain't got a number to measure that, it's just glorified subjectivity. So please, when you sit there and try and tell me numbers don't lie, that's kind of a cop-out. It just signals to me that you simply have no argument. You have no leg to stand on other than just a loud, bombastic opinion. And, we all seem to have those. Something else that I saw pop up a few times this week, and it's, of course, is mainly coming from the old school thinking guys, and a lot of guys that I grew up watching, people like Bret Hart, those are wrestlers, Raven, and even down to the people who were just on the writing or booking side, even Vince Russo and people like that, because Vince went on a little bit of a, I guess you could say, Twitter tirade, maybe not tirade, but he was lamenting something that happened. He was helping out this little minor independent promotion in Colorado called Rocky Mountain Pro, and one of the wrestlers, who's like 24, 25, 26, I don't know exactly how old he is, I'll probably have to look it up. Talented kid. I've watched him. If you remember in the opening episode of this, in my intro, I mentioned the promotion called the NWL, the National Wrestling League in Kansas City. This was one of the guys who was actually wrestling there along with one of his best friends. They're a tag team. They're called the Left Coast Gorillas, and he's the younger half of that team. And Vince didn't say the guy's name in person, but because I follow the guy, I knew that's the guy that Vince was talking about. And it just seems to be the same issue that's going on even at the Performance Center at NXT. It's this clash between old school and new school. It's this clash between, we want to do it this way now, as opposed to how you guys used to write and book and train then. We want to learn the high flying stuff, and we want the show to be more wrestling based. But the old school guys want it to be more character based and slow it down and make it more about storytelling. And it just constantly, there's this friction now. And it's just like, there just doesn't seem to be a place for the old school in this business anymore. And that's a darn shame, because you can't know where you're going till you know where you've been. I mean, you're more out here. These kids, it's like they're seeking more validation from other fans, more so than their elders, more so than from the people who've been there and done that, who drew the money, who drew the ratings. I mean, I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong, but they're constantly talking about how they're evolving stuff. But I'm sorry, again, the numbers don't lie. All you've done is devolve this with your thinking, with the way you want to do things, all because you're hoping. It's almost like, I think Disco said it a lot of times when those guys were booking in TNA, that a lot of times the younger guys, especially people but like the Young Bucks or whatever, they wouldn't go back to the back and ask the veterans how their match was. They would immediately hop on Twitter and see what the fans are saying about their match, and see what if the fans are putting them over. And speaking of fans, they really seek the adulation of the super fans. The dirt sheet writers, like I said, Meltzer, Keller, Johnson, Shera, all those guys. They're seeking more validation from people who really don't have much bearing on what they do. I'm like, these guys don't sign your checks. I mean, you'd much rather go get validation from, say, Wade Keller than going back to the back and asking Arn Anderson how your match was. Think about that. You're telling me, and like this, it's almost like down in NXT. You're telling me that there's a place for Shawn Michaels at the Performance Center, but not Bret Hart. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, those two are darn near equal. You're trying to tell me that you didn't have as much as tag team wrestling is kind of suffering in this business right now, you don't have a place at the Performance Center for the lone surviving Road Warrior, one half of the best tag team of all time. I mean, they're not even, Devon, who's actually still with the WWE, he's not even at the Performance Center. You want to talk about the Road Warriors being the best? The Dudley Boys were the most successful. You tell me you can't take him down to the Performance Center and help those guys too? But I mean, I'm looking at their trainers aren't bad, but I'm just like, most of those guys don't know who those guys are. I mean, but then again, the way these kids these days, they don't want to put over the old school. If you brought those guys down there, they wouldn't listen to them. And that's exactly what happened to Vince this week. And it kind of hurt his heart that he had to leave that promotion, because I actually enjoyed watching it once he got involved with it. I mean, it was much better compared to what they were before. It was like New Revolution Wrestling or something like that. When you watch it, it's like night and day before Vince took it over. And after he came in and started helping out, just developing talent and, helping write the shows, helping them do their promo. And say what you will about the guy. Every single time that Vince Russo ends up leaving a promotion, it pretty much goes to pot. I mean, he had TNA up to over 2 million viewers, and now they can barely get over 300,000 at times. Now, again, numbers don't lie. So please stop saying they don't matter. Because in the end, if you don't have anything to back it up, again, it's always just going to be glorified opinion. And these thin-skinned millennials, and when I don't like to bash on them a lot of times, but still, I mean, a lot of them, that's what they are. I mean, they're just unable to take criticism. I mean, they're so thin-skinned. It's just, and it's kind of saddening sometimes. I mean, one time I got into a little bit of a spat online with the younger half of the Young Bucks, Nick, and because a lot of times when you see them, especially those two, I mean, I respect them for being able to develop their business model to make as much money as they are outside of, quote, the machine. I mean, their business sense, their business savvy is off the chart. But here's the thing. When it comes to constructive criticism, they are such snowflakes. There's no other way to say that. There really isn't. Because I flat out told them one time, I just saw them respond to something I can't remember. I tagged them both in the tweet, and I was just like the way these two react to legitimate criticism from their peers is kind of sad. So of course, Nick's not gonna. So first Matt blocks me, and then Nick, he's actually just gonna come back and just decide he's gonna make a point by saying, most of you know I'm a part-time graphic designer. So he's just gonna come over here and just say, he's just like, your graphic design suck. See, how fair is that criticism? I just like, dude, you don't do what I do. The people who are giving you constructive criticism, they're in your business. Like, you don't do what I do. You can't critique what I do. They can critique what you do because they're in your business. I don't care what you say about my designs. I really don't. So if it was coming from one of my peers, I'd take that to heart. But because you don't do what I do, that doesn't bother me. And it shouldn't bother you when somebody who's like twice your age, who was in the business when it was making money, not saying that you're not making money, because you are. Those numbers bear it out. I'm not saying that you guys suck at making money, but your inability to take constructive criticism kind of blows. And that's what that is. On to really what I wanted to talk about here today. And I said I'd probably get on this guy later in the podcast and whatever, but I think the time was ripe, because constantly, when you see something constantly stated, a lot of times you kind of want to just go ahead and jump in on it. You know, if it's constantly being thrown in your face, it's probably being in your face for a reason. So you might want to address it. Roman Reigns. Here we go. Okay. Roman Reigns, you all know the guy. He's the top. He's pretty much the top guy in the entire business right now, whether you want to admit it or not. The guy is. I mean, he's been number one in PWI. He's main evented 4 straight WrestleManias. I mean, he's an incredible performer. He looks the part, acts the part. He has the pedigree. I mean, strong, fast, athletic. I mean, former football player, so he's athletic as heck. There's a lot of criticisms about the guy. You know, a lot of people don't like his limited moveset, even though he works within, he works within the confines of what according to his character and how he's built himself, and according to his background and everything, that's how he works. I mean, his promos have been criticized, but honestly, the guy speaks clearly. I understand what he's saying. Dude sounds like a man. He has the presence. When he's on camera, you pay attention to the guy. He draws eyes to him. That's also part of drawing power. Whatever. And another move the goalpost attempt. Now a lot of his haters will constantly, you'll hear them say, "Oh, we don't hate the man. We just don't like the character." And they fall back on that a lot of times as a crutch. And that's kind of phony. at times when you listen to some of the things they say. And I would start looking at a lot of things. I would see it in tweets. I would see it in like random videos made by your traditional IWC, YWC, smarky video content creators, if you can call them that. And I don't know. It's just like when I look at a lot of things they say, it's always like, it's the man. It's not the man, but the character. It's not Joe Anoa'i. It's Roman Reigns we don't like. Well, I thought about it. Everything I hear them mention, except for booking, is Joe Anoa'i. It's not Roman Reigns. I mean, in these days, in a less character-driven era, most characters are simply the person and just simply a first name, last name, given some nickname. The architect, Seth Rollins, the lunatic friend, Dean Ambrose, the eater of worlds, Bray Wyatt. There's no The Undertaker. There's no The Godfather. There's really no the closest thing you have to that now is the Velveteen Dream. But everybody's a first name, last name guy with some sort of weird nickname. Or some sort of catchphrase attached to them like Adam Cole. You know what I mean? And it's just like, if you look at the things you hear, it's just like, number one, this is the first one you always hear. He's a failed football player. Okay. Roman Reigns' family even thought he was destined for the NFL. I mean, most of the people in his family, because there were a lot of football players in his family. Out of all of them, I believe majority of them, I believe they thought he was the one that would finally make it to the top. That would finally make it in the league and just be there with no necessarily to have to go into the family business. I mean, he was that talented. He was captain of his team at Georgia Tech, all ACC, defensive player of the year, academic All-American. So he's a smart guy. And if you think about all that, in contrast, the ACC has produced probably more high-level talent in the NFL than even the SEC. The SEC gets a lot of talented high school players. But when you actually look at the players who've won MVPs and things like that, a lot of them, there's been quite a few that have come out of the ACC. I mean, Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers, Matt Ryan, a quarterback, Luke Kuechly, a linebacker out of Boston College of all places. And then he's probably along that. There's been other Samoan players, those Islander type players that have made it in the NFL. Troy Polamalu, Haloti Ngata, Lofa Tatupu out of USC, and Vita Vea, who just got drafted out of Utah, I believe it was. So, and a lot of them believed, Roman would have been next. Not just next, he would have been the guy. But you know what? It didn't work out for him. Those teams didn't necessarily see his talent. And what happened? He just wasn't a football player after all. They thought he could have been next, and it didn't work out. Same thing with me. I've tried different careers. They didn't work out. So I tried something different. He's no different than any other person out there that might be listening to this, especially somebody that might not even like him. But guess what? Roman Reigns wasn't a football player. Joe Anoa'i was. So that's a strike right there for you. So if one of the things you're hating on about today is a quote failed football player, Roman Reigns isn't a failed football player. Joe Anoa'i was the football player. So again, what you're saying has nothing to do with Roman Reigns. That's all about the real person. Okay. Another one, only pushed because of his looks. Okay. Roman Reigns is the product of Samoan and Italian heritage. Sika Anoa'i and Patricia Anoa'i are his parents. But they're not Roman Reigns' parents. They're Joe Anoa'i's parents. Okay? His looks, as you for some reason want to constantly point out, are a product of his parents. Whose parents? Joe Anoa'i's parents. So again, that's another strike. Trust me, you'll strike out really quick in this podcast if you're listening to this and you're one of those people. He's only being pushed because of his family ties. We know the lineage: Rikishi, Umaga, Yokozuna, Alpha, Sika, The Rock. The Fatus and Anoa'i. I mean, their extended family: Nia Jax, Sean Maluta, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, Tamina Snuka. Okay, here's the thing: that's not Roman Reigns' family. That's Joe Anoa'i's family. So again, if you're talking about that, that's a real life thing. That's not a character thing. You're hating on this guy again for real life things, not booking or character based things. Okay, he acts like he's better than everyone. Here, this is something that comes from the dirt sheets mainly, especially Wade Keller, when he's talking about, look, he's constantly talking about how Roman's like trying to pop his like old college buddies or something with his promos or something like that. And I'm just like, really? That's another real person thing. Roman Reigns doesn't have college football buddies. Again, Joe Anoa'i does. So again, that's another real person thing, not a character-based thing that you're talking about. Not at all. See, you're constantly trying to make this sound high and mighty and over the top, and you've got the goods on it. I'm sorry. When you really boil it down to it, you really do genuinely dislike the man just simply for who he is. It has nothing to do with this fictional Roman Reigns guy that you keep talking about. And then another thing is saying you can't buy into the nice guy orientation or good guy, whatever. Listen, like I've said before, this guy has been portrayed as nothing but a loving husband, father, who's tried to live up to the pressures of his famous bloodline. So, again, you're basically saying that you can't accept him as a good guy, so you can't accept the real person. You can't accept Joe Anoa'i. You just can't. So again, it has nothing to do with the character that the WWE made up known as Roman Reigns. Because in the end, everything about him is simply Joe Anoa'i. And my whole thing is this as well. So you can't accept him as the quote good guy. So when you turn him into a bad guy, this has been said before. Trust me, this isn't something new. But you're going to hear this in vocal form rather than article form. And I'll link the article to you when I, into this description for this when you're reading it. But I ran across this article that basically put it in a nutshell. If you do turn this guy heel, what's going to happen? He's going to be fed all of your favorite baby faces. And another thing, majority of the roster is heel already. So why on earth do we need another strong heel? Maybe you want a full-time heel champion, I guess, because you're tired of Brock Lesnar. I think that's really the issue. But think about it. The first person he's going to be fed is Finn. You're begging so much for this guy to get a shot at the Universal title that you think he deserved because, he never got a chance to defend it. But I'm just like, he was Universal champion for 24 hours and he got hurt. So technically it's just an asterisk. Who cares that he won it? He never even got a chance to defend it in the first place. So you can't give the guy a rematch for something that he never actually defended. He's yet to even come close to bringing himself back up to that level. I don't care how many people are throwing their hands in the air when those lights go off during his entrance. I don't really care. I really don't. So Finn's gonna get fed him. So who else? So they're probably gonna keep it if they do turn the guy. They're gonna keep a Shield buddy's face, so he's probably gonna get fed both of them, probably in a triple threat, and they're probably gonna kick the crap out of each other, and he's probably gonna spear both of them and pin both of them. You're probably not gonna like that either. Who else? He'll probably get fed Glorious Bobby Roode. A lot of you people still like him. Well, I don't know. A lot of you are turning on him because they believe. A lot of you are saying that Glorious, this babyface version of him sucks. But I'm like, it sucked ever since NXT. Like I said, give me It Factor back. This Glorious crap is horrible. And who else? I mean, you could bring the New Day back to Raw, maybe turn their baby faces. He can squash all three of them. Again, it's going to be the exact same thing you're complaining about in heel form. So you're hoping what's going to happen is Joe Anoa'i is going to tap into something in himself like The Rock did, and maybe you'll turn him into this like super like over awesome heel that you'll be into when he turns babyface. But I'm just sorry, the same thing is going to happen. He's just going to be fed your favorite babyfaces. I mean, we can go down the line here. Jeff Hardy can come back, or maybe they can finally just get rid of Universal title, merge them back together. He'll unify it against AJ, because I don't think AJ's beaten. I don't think Samoa Joe's beaten AJ. I think they're probably going to keep it on him, because I don't really want to see either of those guys as champ. So let's just put it back together, unify it, have him squash AJ too. Let's see here, put the rosters back together as one, have him squash Jeff Hardy. So yeah, it's just going to keep on doing this, and then Brock Lesnar is going to come back as some lovable babyface once Heyman dumps him. He's going to come back sympathetic after Daniel Cormier kicks his butt in the UFC and he fails to win the UFC heavyweight title. So he's going to have to build himself back up, and all of a sudden you guys are going to be loving Suplex City again in a part-time version of it, but then they're going to fight for the third time at WrestleMania 35. See how this works out? No matter what happens, you're not going to be happy. No matter what he does, he could cut the promo of the century, you're not going to give him credit. He could put on an 8-star classic by Meltzer with somebody like AJ. You still wouldn't put it over. You still wouldn't be happy, no matter what orientation he is. Because in the end, he's either going to squash your favorite heels, he's going to squash your favorite baby faces, he's going to stay in the title picture because he moves the numbers, he moves the needles. Whether you like it or not, Joe Anoa'i is a star. Whether you like it or not, Joe Anoa'i is a draw. And whether you like it or not, Joe Anoa'i is the face of the WWE. You don't like Joe Anoa'i, you could give a damn about Roman Reigns. Just admit it. That's as the buckle turns for this week, y'all. Just a little quick episode I decided to upload. But I appreciate everybody for listening as always. Again, like, subscribe, share. Follow me on Twitter. Like the Facebook page. Leave some reviews. Remember, let's keep this moving. So again, let's grow. A new episode drops, unless I say otherwise, every Saturday. Until then, this is Adrian. As the buckle turns. See you then.